Hey, welcome back to Heritage HQ and our latest Heritage Live. Today's guest is legendary paddler and Southern Sea Ventures Director, Senior Guide, and Chief of Operations, Toby Story. Toby runs Heritage Expeditions kayaking excursions. Welcome, Toby. It's great to have you here and bringing your epic kayaking excursions to our voyages in Indonesia, Melanesia, the Subantarctic Islands, and for the first time ever, into the heart of Antarctica, the Ross Sea.
Hey Isaac, how you going? Yeah, really nice to be here, and of course, yeah, very happy to be talking about kayaking and all the stuff we're doing with you guys with Heritage Expeditions. Yeah.
Awesome to have you and your Kayaking Brains Trust with us today. I'm looking forward to tapping into that and getting some inside intel. Okay, guys, so today's going to run a bit different with Toby. He's going to share a presentation on the many joys associated with expedition kayaking, and we'll sort of chat through that. So I'll be following Toby's lead in this instance. But before we get into it, Toby, are we good to get to know a bit about you and Southern Sea Ventures? So how long have you been kayaking, and when did you get first started and hooked on this awesome outdoor sport?
Yeah, thanks, Isaac. Look, I think I did my first little bit of paddling when I was a kid with my parents actually, and I really enjoyed it. But it wasn't really until I moved to Tasmania in 2002 that I sort of took up sea kayaking, both professionally and more frequently. So I was a surfer, grew up surfing, so big love of the ocean. Grew up in Western Australia, and then came to Tasmania and did a lot of expedition hiking. And then I realised kayaking was sort of like walking on the water, and you could pack all your gear and you could travel around, and sometimes even strap a surfboard on the back and sort of combine that love and passion for the ocean and for sort of expedition travel. And so around 2002 I sort of started, and I really got into it professionally about 2004 or five. I started working in southwest Tasmania, and then with Southern Sea Ventures up in Fiji, et cetera, and it's just sort of been on and on from there. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. So what I'm hearing is we're in good hands then.
I
And
hope so. Yeah.
obviously kayaking a bit warmer than surfing in say Tassie where you are now.
That's right. Yeah, well, you're not in the water for the most part, so and you usually, if it's cold waters, we often have a dry suit, so which is nicer than a wetsuit to wear. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you joined Southern Sea Ventures and you loved the product, and kayaking became such a huge part of your life that you took over the company. Is that right?
Eventually, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I it's yeah, I mean the opportunities have just kept coming. I have tried other things and sort of thought, oh, I'll get out of kayaking now and I'll do something different, but always sort of came back around and new opportunities, opportunities to travel. It's been such a privilege to go all over the world, kayaking, and started as a guide, of course, and then went into teaching and instructing and helping to set up new operations, and then eventually obviously leading the company. So it's just been a really great time. Obviously, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I did take on the company in March 2020, which wasn't necessarily an ideal time for an international travel business, but it did give us time to get stuck into
Yeah.
new things, including reviving the relationship that we have had with Heritage in the past, and that's been a
Yeah,
really great thing.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That COVID reset, or what was the word they were using? Pivot, maybe.
Pivot, yes, that's right. Yeah. So no, that's been a great thing. Yeah.
Excellent. And you also have a Masters of Science and what? Oh, Masters of Science in Wildlife and Fisheries Biology. That's got to come in handy when you're guiding, sort of like combining your twin passions, I guess.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we sort of always, I find, obviously I'm a kayaker and I love the paddling and just the activity and the new landscapes and the social element, being with a group. But then you're
Hmm.
immersed in these really, I mean, some of the most amazing places in the world, the Subantarctics, the remote islands of Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and they have an incredible diversity both in the ocean and on land, of wildlife and of course, flora as well. And yeah, so it's a wonderful part of the experience for all of us, I think, to engage with the natural landscape and in depth and know a lot about it. So that was one of the reasons I decided to go off and do the masters, was to really dive deep into the natural
No,
world.
no pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and obviously, sort of like expedition cruising is that sort of niche. We take you to these really remote, hard to reach places where this abundance of unique wildlife and plant life, flourishes, and then, to then explore that on the kayak. I mean, we take you out in the Zodiac and you explore on foot, but then then the kayak actually takes you to places further off limits, right? So it's sort of like expedition on top of expedition.
Yeah, in a sense it is. That's right. I mean, the Zodiac cruising is something I love and enjoy as well, but being in the kayaks, sometimes you can get to places that you couldn't otherwise get in, places that are too shallow or too narrow for the Zodiacs to get to. Excuse me, but also there's just a sense of peace and quiet sometimes, being up close and personal, having really, you're right down low in the water, so having interactions with wildlife from that position is really unique. You can have adventure out there. There's occasionally big seas and wind, particularly in the subs, but anywhere that you're on the ocean, and so you can have a bit of adventure, but you can come into a little lagoon somewhere and it's just dead quiet and absolutely peaceful. And I think the kayaking in that very small group setting gives you opportunities to have some quite unique experiences in these really amazing places. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've got a lot of interest in joining these excursions with you. So shall we take a look at your slideshow and presentation and get the
Absolutely,
ball
yeah.
rolling?
Yep,
Awesome.
I'll take the lead and just jump in whenever you're ready. So I think Isaac and I have been talking back and forth about some of the questions that people often ask. And so in this presentation, we'll go through a bit of detail on the destinations, some of the highlights from a personal perspective, as well as from what's on offer. But we'll try and answer some of these questions in this presentation as well. So really about the suitability and who joins the program, what's included, what do you get out of it? Why is it such a great experience, in my opinion, of course.
Absolutely. So shall we knock off the first one now? Because I guess that's what most people are going to be thinking about. Am I fit enough? How much
Absolutely.
paddling's involved?
Yeah, no, good question. So, I mean, it depends a little bit on what the experience is that's on offer. So we're not always out there, just trying to clock up miles for the sake of clocking up miles. Sometimes if there's great conditions, we might do an extended outing. And I should just mention, most outings are somewhere between 2 to 4 hours on the water, usually with some breaks. A 4-hour outing would always have a stop somewhere. And we might cover anywhere from 4 kilometers to 12 to 13 kilometers, even 15 kilometers in that time period, depending on the wind conditions, the enthusiasm within the group, and what's on offer. Maybe it's a really exciting opportunity to circumnavigate an island or cover a lovely piece of coastline, or maybe there's a really great wildlife experience or ice experience really close to the shore and not far at all. So the sort of the exciting bit is only a short paddle. So in terms of fitness, it's important to have a reasonable level of mobility. Having some kind of background with paddling is really good. And if you don't have it, there's usually, if you're signing up months in advance, there's opportunity to get a bit of a practice session in somewhere. And we've got lots of people we can recommend depending on where you are in the world.
Awesome.
And then other types of activity, if you're an active person, got reasonable mobility, you're walking, swimming, or doing that sort of exercise on a regular basis, then we would say we'd be surprised. It should be very suitable for you. I will just add in, age-wise, we've had people as young as 8 and as old as 80.
Excellent.
On the program. So, age is really not the defining factor. It's more about your enthusiasm for adventure, and having a reasonable level of fitness and mobility. And of course, as Isaac will be able to tell you, if you ever need to discuss your suitability, you can reach out directly to the Heritage Office, and they can put you in contact with me to discuss directly.
Yeah, absolutely. All too happy to refer any questions, additional
Yeah,
questions you may have, to Toby. He runs the program, and yeah, is the font of knowledge for all of this. So that's a great resource to have as well if you're weighing it up and considering if this is suitable for me. I guess it's suitable for anyone with a sense of adventure, I would imagine.
pretty much. Absolutely. Yeah. And we always tailor the program to suit people's ability. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
I might just roll on with a couple more of the slides, and I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
questions
absolutely.
as we go. Yeah, sounds good. So the two images here these are sort of couple of my favorite experiences from the last time I was in
Yeah.
the sub. So I'll come back to those throughout this little presentation here. But thought I might just start with what's included in terms of the equipment. We
Hmm.
use kayaks, so single and double kayaks. They're defined as having flotation, so they've got bulkheads forward and aft, which means if
Hmm.
you fill the boat with water, it actually still floats. So they're very seaworthy craft. We obviously include all the paddles, safety equipment. They're ruddered kayaks, so instead of having a drop-down skeg, they have a rudder which you steer with foot pegs
Hmm.
in your feet. So they track really well in the wind, and they cover distance. They're really good for covering distance in a straight line, as opposed to like a whitewater kayak or a sit-on-top kayak, which is more for shorter journeys, easier to
Yeah.
turn sort of thing, but not as good for covering distance on the ocean. In the subantarctics and the Antarctic, in the Ross Sea, we're also including the dry suits, which and obviously the spray skirts, the PFD, and
Yeah.
then also little pogies, which are like sleeping bags for your hands. So that's something to cover your hands up and keep your hands nice and warm.
This is an additional expense on top of joining the voyage. It's very small compared to what you're getting, and the experience. Obviously, there's a guide and professional guide included as well. What would people need to bring from home?
Yeah, good question, Isaac. Look, not a lot that's different from what you would typically pack on any one of these voyages. So
Okay.
in the subantarctics, for example, you're going to need warm clothing, different layers for any outing. And then you have your outer shell, which would be your raincoat and rain pants and boots. And in this instance, you just put the dry suit over the top of those clothes. So it's actually not really much different from what you would normally have with you. Maybe a couple of small things. You do need a water shoe or wetsuit bootie that covers your
Hmm.
dry suit. You might need a different kind of hat that's got a little toggle on it. Some people like, it's
Okay.
obviously you're out in the wind, so without a toggle they can get blown away. Some people like to bring gloves just to protect their palms from potential blisters. Maybe a small dry bag for a camera or something. But we do also provide some dry bags for bringing extra warm gear and that sort of thing. So there's not a lot extra that needs to be added from your normal packing list to join the kayak program.
Okay, excellent. And you bring up an interesting point there with the camera. So obviously opportunities to take some amazing photos when you're out in the kayak as well. So you definitely need a dry bag for that, I would imagine.
Yes, was a few different ways to do it, and I guess when you're in the kayak, remember you've got your hands on the paddle a fair bit of the time, so
Hmm.
it's not as easy taking photos from the kayak as it is, say, sitting in a Zodiac, but there are opportunities, and particularly when you get out and go for a walk. So people often do it in two different ways. We might have a small waterproof camera, and iPhones are
Hmm.
suitable. Mobile phones are suitable for that these days. Just in the breast pocket of your PFD. That's easy. You can pull it out, get some nice shots of the experience. And then we're then stopping somewhere with great wildlife opportunities, you want to bring a larger camera, you can pack it in a dry bag, or you can put it into a pelican case or hard case and store it inside the kayak.
Yeah.
And I usually store, in fact, I've actually got it right here. This is my
Here's one you prepared earlier.
this is my camera case. Okay, so I keep
Yeah.
that in the cockpit with me. I can just clip it open when I need to, and I can pull it out and take a quick photo,
Yeah.
shut it back
And
down.
that floats, I'm assuming.
That floats and it's waterproof when it's when it's
Perfect.
clipped up. But just have to remember, like there's salt water around. You can definitely get your camera wet.
Yeah.
I carry a little, just a little cloth in there to wipe my hands between.
Yeah.
But it's not an really easy place to be taking photos, but there are opportunities out there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously want to capture some of these moments, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I shouldn't say it's not easy. It's just not as easy for dedicated photography, but it's there's lots of opportunities for taking photos. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you go into one of these quiet coves or something, or perhaps you may be in front of the penguin slide and the snares. And yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Okay. I might roll on to the next
Yeah,
slide.
absolutely. So maybe I'll just ask, how do people get into the kayak from the ship?
Yeah, great question. So basically, there's two ways. Because you get from the ship straight into the Zodiac just in the same way that everybody does. Then we will transport the kayaks either a short distance, and you just get in from the Zodiac. And there's quite a simple system for that. It's actually very stable and easy. And the alternative is we take the kayaks on shore and the Zodiac runs you ashore and you start from the shore.
From shore. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, basically we're using the Zodiac like a platform to transport to safe location or sheltered location, whether that's in a cove or on shore. Yeah.
Excellent. The Zodiac to kayak transfer sounds more fun. That might be
it is actually. Yeah. That's great, especially when it gets a little bit bouncy. That's when I like it. Most people prefer it when it's calm. So I just had a couple of photos I wanted to share, I guess, from some of my own experiences down there, and what's involved in the kayaking. You're often in a small group within a small group. So once you get off the vessel, we have a maximum of 10 participants plus the guide in the program. So you'll be just a small group traveling around together, usually independently of the Zodiacs. Obviously, we interact with them and say hello, but we'll often do some of our own things as well. So this was my first time at Musgrave Inlet, and we'd been dropped off and set off on a lovely little paddle, and we just sort of came around this corner and disappeared into this cave. And this is coming back out again, but we'd gone in, hundreds and hundreds of meters into this cave, right into the center of the island. And then if we just go across here, I didn't have a photo with us with the kayaks in it, but this is an open cathedral. So we paddled through this gap and then the whole sky is open above you. And there's just these lovely pieces of fern dripping little waterfalls off the side. And it's really is quite magic sort of paddling.
I can definitely vouch for that as very a beautiful spot to be in this circular cathedral, and there's actually some amazing rock colors in there as well. Sometimes there's even like a hooker's sea lion in there as well. Wow, having a play. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's lots of other little coves like this as well that you can nose your kayak into, and that's that's one of the lovely things about it. And it's very sheltered in there as well. So regardless of kind of what's happening out in the open sea, we've got these lovely little places to explore.
And there is actually a cave, a legit cave with no open dome on it as well.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. And we do try to get outside of the sheltered coves as well. So find some adventure. This is we did get out to onto the open coast, and there's some nice blowholes doing their thing. So lots of opportunities for adventure. And speaking of which, this is one of my other personal favourite images, and this is from the snares. And
absolutely, I can see those snares-crested penguins there.
Yes, and Isaac, I took this photo especially for a good friend of mine who's seen, I think, nearly every other penguin species on the planet, but this. So I had to share it with him. Yeah.
So rubbing it in then.
Just a little bit, yeah. But,
they're going to have to join the voyage, no doubt.
I'm sure he's keen, yeah. But we'd for this one in particular, we used the Zodiac the Snares is a wild and exciting place.
There's
And
no landing there, so that would be Zodiac to kayak transfer.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we used the Zodiac to transport it upwind because there was a little bit of wind.
Yeah.
And we used the Zodiac and dropped off into the bay here and paddled around. And it was just us with these two lovely ladies from New Zealand, adventurous ladies, and paddled around in here. There's lots of beautiful little coves to explore and penguins sliding in and out of the water.
Yeah.
And then we took off. Oh, sorry, you go, Isaac. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I think we can tell by those massive smiles on their faces that they are living for this moment.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was just wonderful. And then, and that was the calm bit. And then we headed out to sea to paddle back to the ship. We were escorted by the Zodiac just so that we could get back in if we needed to. And as you pointed out, we needed it to get back in once we got back anyway. So, and as we paddled down, we started to have a bit of wind behind us. It sort of picked up 10 knots, 12 knots, maybe up to 15 knots, and a little bit of a following sea. And it was definitely exciting. There were reasonably large waves, relatively large. I mean, a metre or so, and a bit of surfing. So getting a little bit of excitement. We paddled down, came around the corner and up into the coastline and hit out of the wind and got back into the Zodiac and went back to the ship. And the ladies were just blown away. They were just hooting, with excitement. And they were like, we would have done that if you had have told us what we were going to do. But now that we've done it, we would never take it back. We just,
Yeah,
and
of course.
For me, this is one of the great things about running the kayaking is, we get to go to these really unique and interesting places. It's a really intimate experience with the coastline. But we get to share it with people who may not choose to have done this, and we can really do something that's it's really exciting and a little bit out of the box for people. And
maybe a little bit out of their comfort zone, and obviously you get to experience it through fresh eyes as well with these people seeing it for the first time. I think the weather, what you bring up a good point there with the weather in that. So this is obviously a little bit weather dependent, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely. I mean, there's limits to everything, and and I think just like the expedition in general, we're always, the captain and the expedition leader are always searching for the best ways to run the expedition that accommodates the weather conditions. And in the same way, the kayakers are working with the expedition leader and captain to sort of fit the kayaking program in. So we do have limits on when you could go out. And some people choose not to come on certain outings if it's just too rough, or, they might be fair weather paddlers only. We're also, because we have the Zodiacs, and we're always working, with the captain and the expedition leader to be in the best positions. It's very rare that we can't do anything. Most of the time, if we can get a Zodiac off, we can get the kayaks and find somewhere that's a bit more sheltered and out of the wind to do some paddling. But there are times when you can get too much. Yeah.
And how often would people be able to get, like, how many excursions would you have on a voyage, and how does that fit in with the expedition as well?
It's a good question. Basically the way the kayak program works is it's on offer every time the ship comes to anchor, every time the ship stops. So if there's activities happening, whatever those are, Zodiac cruising or shore landings, then we'll offer the kayaking as well. And we'll just talk to people about what the best experience is on any given day. So some people have a particular interest in going on shore to be up close and personal with the albatross or the sea lions, etc., or there's a particular hike or certain hut that they really want to see. And so we'll sort of work around all of those desires that people have to make sure that they get the best experience possible. But in general, anytime the ship is stopping and there's activities running, the kayaking is one of those activities, provided the weather is suitable.
And obviously there'll be days where you can actually combine. You could do some kayaking and join a landing afterwards and things like that, right? You wouldn't be sort of 100% picking one or the other. There will be instances where that would happen, but there'd obviously be times where that could be combined as well, right?
Yeah, definitely, and that's, I think, part of the kayaking program is it's additional. So it's an extra activity, and we still make sure that people have the opportunity to have those other experiences too, if that's something that they really want to do. And there are certain activities or experiences that we all want to do, like watching the albatross fly overhead.
Yeah.
Subs is just something, it's marvelous. It's watching or seeing them on the nest. So you can easily spend a bit of time out kayaking, and then head on shore and do part of one of the hikes as well. In the Ross Sea, obviously getting to some of the huts is going to be a really big highlight for people. And so making sure they're part of that as well as the kayaking side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, those albatross will be flying overhead when you're in the kayak, and they might be sitting on the water next to you as well. So
absolutely, yeah. There's always something different, and what we typically find is once people are signed up for the kayaking program, they do the kayaking once, they usually do it every time. So it's sort of normally what happens. Yeah. It's a really wonderful way to experience the place, a little bit more active probably, and you get a sense of independence as well, I guess, with the really small group. So you sort of have effectively a private guide, whether it's myself or one of the other guides, that can help inform you about what the best opportunities are on any given day. So.
Excellent. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I just wanted to show a quick picture of Macquarie Island, because we'll be there in November this year, and that's this is a really, really unique opportunity, and we've got sort of quite similar to South Georgia, I guess, paddling along the coast of South Georgia around the Salisbury Plains, where we've got penguins jumping in and out of the water, and Macquarie Island is really similar, one of those incredible wildlife hotspots in the world, and to be able to offer the paddling there is really exciting for us, and obviously couldn't do it without Heritage Expedition, so that's really great. And but it's just one of the really unique things that we're able to offer in the Subantarctic Islands. So even though it's a rugged place, you can usually find one side of the island where we can get out and explore along the coast. It just gives you that really unique experience. Yeah, absolutely.
And I've had the pleasure of going to Macquarie Island, and this is a fraction of the penguins that are on this island. And they're very inquisitive. They will probably come up to the kayaks, I imagine. And also there's the royal penguins. So these are the king penguins, but there's also the royal penguins there as well. And Macquarie Island is the only place in the world you can see those guys. They're a little bit smaller. But yeah. And southern elephant seals as well.
Yeah.
It's all happening.
Yeah, it's definitely all happening. Yeah. And they are, as you say, very curious. So they will come up. I have had a penguin come up and, just nibble on the paddle, just as you just gently paddling along, looking out for penguins. So they seem very, very, very unperturbed by us at all, and really not disturbed by us. I just thought I'd throw this little map in here. Isaac, my cursor there. Yep. Anyway, so this, for those that aren't familiar, obviously in November there's a voyage out of Hobart to Macquarie, Campbell, Auckland, Snares, and back up to southern New Zealand. The other voyage, so this is one of the voyages that the kayaking is offered on. The other voyages are the Galapagos of the Southern Ocean, which also includes Macquarie Island. And then for a slightly shorter experience, just the Campbell, Auckland, and Snares Island as well as another one. The dates here are for this year, but we're also offering it next year. So just wanted to give an example of the areas that we're talking about, where we're offering the kayaking. Oh, and that was accidental, but probably a good segue into the Ross Sea.
Absolutely, yes. So expedition kayaking in the Ross Sea, the heart of Antarctica, for the first time. Very cool, and no doubt lots of people are super excited about this. What can we expect?
Well, I guess in addition to going through the subantarctics, as you say, this will be the first sort of opportunity first time we're off that Heritage or anyone, as far as I understand, is offering a dedicated kayak program in the Ross Sea. is, I think the sense of exploration is one of the first things that I want to sort of latch onto, which is the pioneering spirit. And that's sort of the history of the Ross Sea is very much about that Antarctic pioneering spirit. In terms of kayaking opportunities, we've got wonderful opportunities along the ice edge where a lot of the wildlife is. The ice, there is not only sea ice and pack ice, but incredibly large tabular icebergs. So opportunities to paddle amongst the expanse of these giant icebergs. And then just really unique coastline and a really unique way to, I guess, enter these different, to land at certain areas, different places. For me, it's the expanse of the place, and the opportunity to be there in a kayak in such a small group. I've put this at the bottom. Is this the world's ultimate small group experience? I don't know. I mean, I'm a kayaker, so I can only guess at that for other people, but for myself, just the opportunity to be there in a kayak in such a remote part of the world, it's sort of like being in another planet almost. So.
100%. I mean, Ross Sea Antarctica is like the ultimate Antarctic experience. You're not going to be able to explore further south than where we will take you. So in that sense, it is the ultimate bucket list adventure. But here you are adding on another bucket list adventure to a bucket list adventure, which is quite mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, no, I know we're all really excited about it, and the program this year is confirmed. So 2025, this coming season already has people, but there are a couple of spaces left, and then I know we've already got bookings for 2026 as well. So it's great to see people, the demand and the interest in it, and I know we're all really excited to offer it as well, or to work with Heritage to offer this.
Yeah, I mean, so we're going down into the silent 70s. Obviously, the calmness, not always, but there's a large sense of calm when you're there, which will be great for kayaking. The other thing is that you are entering 24 hours of daylight. So the kayaking opportunities will be quite endless. It's not unusual on these voyages, because this is authentic expedition cruising, is to take the opportunity when the opportunity arises. And I can speak from experience, having landed on Adelie penguin, walked amongst Adelie penguin colonies at 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's just sort of, that's things that you'll never ever forget, just ingrained. And yeah,
I think the other
pity
thing.
Pity the people that hear those stories at parties, because they are green.
Yeah, I think the other thing here, Isaac, that I think we talked about in the past was this is probably the only voyage I can think of where you might have the opportunity to paddle with emperor penguins as well. So
yes, absolutely, really
beautiful and unique experience. Yeah.
And it's also you say the world's ultimate small group experience, which is a great segue into, okay, so how many people can take these spaces?
There's just 10 spaces in total.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it is literally first in, first served.
It is literally first in, first served.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so no, it's a really exciting experience, and of course includes the subs as well. So
yeah, exactly.
So that's sort of a segue to the Ross Sea. But so yeah, very exciting, and obviously great opportunities for whales as well, potentially orcas.
Yeah, lots of orca there as well.
Yeah, in amongst
not just orca, but yeah, other whales.
Yeah, and I think now we're going to jump completely to somewhere completely different.
I was going to say, let's talk about some of the other destinations, and what are some of the highlights that we can experience there?
Well, I'll just talk about the two itineraries that we've got kayaking on this year. And again, these similar itineraries will have kayaking on and follow in coming years as well. This one, which is coming up quite soon, is Bali through to Port Moresby or through to Cairns. And this really traverses such a large portion of the Indonesian archipelago. Like, it's really quite unique. Starting in Bali, which is an easy access point, through Komodo Islands, the Sunda Islands. Very unique in the sense, obviously, you're east of the Wallace Line, very dry environment, beautiful beaches, obviously wonderful coral and marine life. Actually, this one of the guides sent me a video of his first outing out there. They went into a caldera and dragged the boats just a short way in and paddled around this inside of this caldera, and all the bats, it was in the afternoon, and all the bats came out. So they were paddling around in this caldera, and there were thousands and thousands of bats over the top of them. And then up through southern Sulawesi, Wakatobi area, again, beautiful, lovely, lovely islands. Through the Spice Islands, which has their own unique character, of course, as well, and history.
And I see Raja Ampat's on the list there. That's got to be a bucket list thing as well, to kayak around those amazing formations. Obviously, you get to snorkel there as well, but to add kayaking to that, some of those formations where the water's washed away and the amazing limestone outcrops and everything's very jagged and sharp and pointy. So lots to explore.
It's a really unique place to paddle, and we've got time for a quick story, don't we, Isaac?
Yeah, always. You can always fast forward it if you don't want to hear
it. Yeah, true. So it's a beautiful, beautiful area for paddling. Got some photos coming up shortly. And but I remember one of the first times I paddled out there, we were paddling along, and there's these big towering limestone cliffs, and just paddling along, and I saw a little cave, and I thought, oh, what's in there? And we sort of poked our nose in, and then you could see on the other side a bit of light. And we thought, oh, come on, we've got to go through. So we all paddled through.
Exactly.
And a few bats sort of took off and came out the other side, and we were inside an island. And then we started paddling inside this island. We'd been in there for about 45 minutes or so, and I sort of went, oh, I think the tide's coming up. We better get out of here, because there was no other way out. So we paddled back, and we were fine. We sort of had to duck our heads a little bit, but the tide had come up a little bit. And it still has that sense of a place where you could disappear. It's quite an expansive place. And I think a lot of the islands here that we're traversing on this voyage, and into Melanesia, they've got a sense of timelessness about them. But yeah, Raja it's a special place. Yeah.
And absolutely, there's literally no other way you can sort of get there to some of the islands. We're the only people that go to them. So there's no other way to kayak or experience these places. And we're talking, pristine white sand beaches, beautiful crystal clear water, which must be great for kayaking, because you'll be able to see all the action down on the reefs below with all the colourful fish.
Absolutely.
Swaying palms on shore, and then incredible cultural encounters. The locals are very friendly, and they have their own form of kayaks as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to flick on. I know I've got some photos I want to share as well.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just very quickly touch on this second itinerary. And some people are choosing to do this back to back. So they start in Bali and they go through to Port Vila. So do both voyages. And just as you said, Isaac, like there's really off the beaten track places. They're really incredibly unique. And I think, it's hard to really grasp sometimes, how timeless these places are, and how untouched. It's quite a remarkable part of the world. So it's quite an impressive breadth of travel, from Bali all the way through to Port Vila, that whole section. But just to come on to some of what you were talking about here, this the Bajak Laut, the people of the sea, effectively, we're interacting with people who are living in little stilt villages on these very remote atolls and islands. And this fella here, he's made his own diving goggles. So he hand makes them with pieces of glass.
Do you know what they're made out of?
I don't know exactly. No, I don't know exactly. It's wood, but I don't know what.
Okay. I thought it might have been bone or something, but wood. That's pretty impressive, and that they would seal as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's their crafts people. So
absolutely.
But yeah,
you can't just pop down to the shops to buy a pair of goggles. This is remote, right?
Yeah, this is remote. Yeah, and I think being in a kayak, there's a lot of people out there on the water in their own small boats, whether they're paddling or these guys here in New Guinea in their dugouts. There are, there's some sort of affinity there, fellow people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a quite, and you never know. You come around the corner and all of a sudden there's a group of people there, and they're always happy to see you and really interested in what you're doing. And it's a really unique kind of cultural experience all through that. I don't want to pinpoint any one place in particular.
No, exactly right. But there may even be an opportunity to have a swap, and you can paddle a dugout and they can take a kayak for a spin, maybe. But
I
a
can tell
culture
you,
exchange there.
I have tried the dugouts and they are not stable. So I'm very impressed with these, people, with how they maneuver them, because they're a very fine acquired skill.
Yeah. So maybe not then.
They would love it. They'd find it very humorous, I'm sure. And compared to the stable kayaks that we use, they're not. They're quite unstable. And then so we've got that cultural side of it, but the landscapes, this is the islands of Raja Ampat, beautiful, incredible limestone formations all through the islands. This one here was taken in the Spice Islands, so very dramatic sort of scenery. And you can see this, Isaac, you touched on it, that crystal clear water. So
yeah, absolutely.
When you're paddling, there's a lot to see underneath you. And we do also, take the opportunity to snorkel when there's great snorkeling opportunities as well. And then just down here, these villages are actually on the sea, so it's quite a unique way to experience the villages.
Experience them for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And so with the kayaks, are they all singles, or do you have options for doubles as well? How does that work?
So primarily doubles, actually, but then we do have
a
range of singles as well, to accommodate those people that are more experienced or more adventurous, or used to paddling a single kayak, or just want to have a go at some point. But so typically it's mostly doubles, and if you're not traveling with a partner or a friend, we'd pair you up with someone, and then we do have some singles as well. So we sort of swap those around.
Okay, excellent.
Want to have a go, and of course usually the guide's in a single, just to ensure the safety of the group and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Be a bit more nimble.
So I think from my side, I was just that there's those polar the tropical expeditions is really about culture and landscape. You've got that both of those things intertwined. And of course in the Southern Ocean and Antarctica, it's really the landscape, the history, and the wildlife, I think, that make those two things so unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Two quite different destinations and regions, but both premium destinations for kayaking.
Absolutely. Yeah,
for sure, particularly expedition kayaking.
Absolutely. Yes. There's lots to explore.
So, have you got time to tell us about some of your favorite kayaking experiences?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's a lot, Isaac. So
I think, let's narrow it down then.
Yeah, look, if I honestly, I mean, that day out on the snares with those two ladies, that was one of my personal favourites. We not only we're at the snares, which is incredibly remote. We got a great day for it. Having that sort of combination of a really lovely interaction with wildlife and the shelter and the calm, and then out into the open sea and a bit of excitement for everybody.
Yeah.
So a real sense of kind of accomplishment for the group members, and obviously that brings a real sense of kind of joy for us as guides, seeing that in people. So honestly, that was one of my most favourite paddling experiences, I would say, ever. So
I can imagine. I've explored them by Zodiac, and there are little passageways between rocks as well. You've got fur seals sunning themselves on rocks and swimming around in the water. It's literally like being in a nature documentary. But then, next level, because you would sort of be like navigating it in your kayak.
Absolutely.
So super cool.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I can go on. Yeah.
And I guess is this where I guess we've come to the end.
Yes. So yeah, this is the end of the slides. Yeah.
End of the slides. Okay. Can we get some parting advice from you? So finally, what would you say to people that were thinking about joining or maybe on the fence?
Well, I think my first suggestion is just sign up and then work out how to do it later on.
Exactly. Well, that's
in part, that's true. I mean, obviously, hopefully this webinar has, been useful in terms of gauging a bit of an understanding of how the program works. And it really is open to people with a sense of adventure and enthusiasm. If you're not an experienced kayaker, there's usually plenty of time to get prepared. We highly recommend you do a few practice sessions in the lead up to the voyage. But it is something that's achievable. And we do try to include all abilities. So, I highly recommend that you reach out to us if you're on the fence, and you can have a chat to myself or someone in the office about your suitability or any concerns you might have about whether the program's going to be suitable for you. But just do it. I think that is the
to borrow a slogan.
That's
yes. Where do we sign up, right?
Exactly.
Okay, look, cheers, Toby. Thank you so much for your expedition kayaking masterclass. If you'd like to join one of our 4 kayaking excursions this season, we have options on Indonesian Explorer, Discover the Secrets of Melanesia, and November Galapagos of the Southern Ocean, and January Ross Sea Voyage. Okay, the links to those voyages will be in our bio to check it out.